In hardly any other country have so many people died of COVID-19 as in Great Britain. A haphazard zigzag course by the government provided ammunition in abundance for the opposition. But then the tide turned. Around 150,000 corona deaths, a debate about police violence and a sharp slump in exports after Brexit. There are enough points of attack to criticize the government in the UK for the opposition. And at least once a week, Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, is sure to get the attention. Every Wednesday, punctually at lunchtime, the opposition leader has 6 questions for Boris Johnson during the Prime Minister's Questions, or the PMQs, broadcast live by the major news channels. Mostly carefully equipped with statistics, the 58-year-old Starmer has been trying week after week for a year to attack the Prime Minister and expose wrong decisions. But if you look at the polls, most attacks seem to roll off like raindrops from an umbrella, or water from a duck's back, or what that was called again. The Conservative Tory party is currently 8 to 10 points ahead of Labour in opinion polls. The lead is still increasing. At the latest, since the success of the British vaccination campaign became apparent in February and the corona situation relaxed significantly, the gap has widened. The government was lucky that its success came in the late stages of the pandemic, says policy expert Nigel Fletcher of King's College London. The concern for Labour is that is the picture that remains. 1 year after taking office as party leader on April 4, 2020, Starmer has already seen the first ups and downs. In autumn and winter, things looked even better for him. The Labour leader and his party drove Johnson in front of them and called for tougher corona measures, which were first rejected by the government and then implemented in almost exactly the same way a few weeks later. In November, Labour even overtook the Tories in the polls. Many would rather have the level-headed Starmer as Prime Minister at that time. But the mood has turned. A proud Johnson is currently touring the country's vaccination centres almost weekly, announcing new milestones in the fight against the virus and defending a cautious but irrevocable route out of lockdown. Labour has a really tough job right now, says Tim Durrant of the Institute for Government think tank. Right now, people don't want great political arguments. They want solutions to the crisis. Starmer, whose first year falls entirely in the time of crisis management, had announced constructive opposition right from the start. So far, so constructive, but it is difficult to gain a profile this way. In the 2019 general election, Labour, at that time still under the old left Jeremy Corbyn, had its worst result in decades. An unclear position on Brexit and anti-Semitism allegations cost votes. Since the change at the top, such allegations have moved into the background. Starmer has been very successful in getting Labour back into mainstream politics, notes Fletcher. Many expected it to take longer. It's still unclear what Brexit will actually mean for the United Kingdom in the next few years, especially now smokescreened by the pandemic. But Labour does not want to open this barrel again, also because the party lost many seats, especially in the classic working class regions in the north of England known as the Red Wall. Approval for Brexit is particularly pronounced there. You can't win by opening old wounds, says Durrant. But a clear vision of what Britain could look like under a Labour government has so far been lacking. Starmer, a former Crown Prosecution Service chief prosecutor, is not a fan of castles in the air or sweeping gags. He wants to convince with expertise and arguments, which is why the Prime Minister keeps stealing the show from him and denying to answer anything. Johnson also knows how to attract people who normally did not vote conservatively, says Fletcher. You can look as good as you want as an opposition. If the government is popular, you can't change that. The next regular election is in 2024, and it will not change much until, first of all, what won't happen, Boris Johnson will ever answer any question Keir Starmer is asking in the PMQs. As far as I'm aware, he so far in 1 year hasn't answered a single question from Starmer. The second thing is the pandemic has to be over. And the third thing is the people have to realize the damages that Brexit is bringing. And it is bringing more damage than the pandemic. It is bringing damage on the long term. The pandemic is a short to midterm damage, but Brexit will bring damage to the long term. And before people realize that, that won't change, especially with Starmer not talking about what they want in any case. What future do they want? Rejoin, come to the customs union, hard Brexit, which would be the same with the Tories, wouldn't help him either anyway. So what does he want to do? I said this in other videos as well. I don't know what he wants. And so why should anybody vote for him? And that's why probably I don't see much success for Labour in a good month in Scotland either. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.